I'm Janae, and you're in the Gen Zone. Now, let's get into business. The Hunter Biden laptop scandal is very old at this point. But if you listen to any one of the conservative news shows or any conservative pundit, you'll hear about it at least 3 times a week. I, for one, was tired of it all. We all know that, allegedly, Hunter parties and had an issue with partying a little too hard. Again, allegedly. But this whole mess was said to be a Trump thing or a Russia thing or some sort of conspiracy to help Trump win the 2020 election, which didn't work. Well, those were the claims that were said back then. As of a few weeks ago, things have changed. All of a sudden, there seems to be a whole different situation that, in my opinion, supersedes the laptop and anything that was on it. Now, why, back in 2020, was the FBI contacting Twitter and telling Twitter executives to suppress anyone tweeting anything about the laptop? Why were they talking about the information having a negative impact on Biden's campaign? Furthermore, why after all this time are the same people who said that it was all a baseless conspiracy now saying that it wasn't a conspiracy? Now, for all of you that may be thinking my questions are pro-Trump, let's be clear. They are not. I am pro-free speech and the responsibility that comes with it. What we are not supposed to have going on is the government or federal law enforcement like the FBI involving themselves in what we say or read. Now, in other shocking news, in North Carolina, the Supreme Court will hear arguments that could possibly change the election process nationwide. The decisions will impact gerrymandering all over the state, as well as give one party the power to manipulate federal elections, aka the presidency, to their benefit. Not many people are paying attention to what is happening in this case. How this plays out will then become an issue in every state. Let that sink in. And with the upcoming 2024 election, we'll be paying attention to a lot of this here on the Gen Zone.
Gen Zone.
Welcome back to the Gen Zone. Tonight we have a very special guest with us. Let's give a round of applause for former Congress candidate Baxter Stapleton. Thank you for joining us, Baxter. How you doing tonight?
Amazing. Great to be in the Gen Zone.
Absolutely. I'm grateful for you being here, and I'm also grateful for the stance that you have taken in your community in Dayton, Ohio. And I'm grateful that one of my peers, somebody that I can say I share my generation with, stepped up to the plate and decided to run for Congress. Can you share with our audience what that was like for you?
Absolutely. So a big part of why I wanted to do it was I just felt like I didn't see people in Congress that reflected who look like myself and my peers. And I think that we're in a 4th industrial revolution where technology is changing things rapidly, and that Congress makes so many decisions that impact our daily lives, and that the people that are not reflective of our age group, I think that needs to change. And so that was the big reason why I wanted to move to my hometown and asked voters to wanted to give them a different choice and offer a new option. So I wanted to step up and run as a candidate.
They actually announced you as the winner, but then they went back and said that you weren't. Could you explain that?
Yeah, so that was it was really wild because for the majority of the campaign, I was running unopposed, or no one was running against me. So for a while, I was just preparing for the election going in my favor. But then right at the deadline, and this is also a part of why it can be so confusing running as a candidate, because there was redistricting happening. So all the congressional districts were changing. And so no one really knew actually what the district would be until about a month before the election. And so once the district was set, there were 3 older gentlemen in their 60s who all decided to run against me at the last. So on the filing deadline, I had 3 new opponents, and so it became a 4-way primary for the Democratic nomination for for my congressional district. And so on election night, the New York Times had reported that I won, but then as more votes started to come in, it got closer. And so the uh, gentleman who beat me ended up inching out, got more votes. And so it was just like such an emotional roller coaster because all this feedback from friends and we're like, oh my gosh, like congratulations. And they're like all these like messages are coming in, and then just like the reality of democracy was like, okay, well, more, more that's the up and down of election night. It can be really crazy. So
I remember that because for those of you who don't know, we've had Baxter on the show before, and this was when he was running for his congressional seat. So I remember seeing it on Instagram, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Baxter won. You know, if you were a Republican, you probably could have sued them or tried to take them to court for voter fraud.
I mean, that's the crazy part about, I think, just what's happening like in Arizona and other places is just like the lack of respect in our institutions. I think that like people think that, oh, like they're higher than the ballot or they're higher than the vote. And I think that just can be so dangerous.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. I feel like ever since the 2020 election and now what you're saying, what's happening in Arizona with Kari Lake, it's definitely a show that's being put in forth, which is not fair because there are actual people that believe them and follow along with it, and it's not safe. Like as you said, it's our democracy, and it's the most powerful part of our democracy is being able to vote and elect who we want. So taking that power from us, the voter, is insane. It's the exact opposite of what our government is supposed to be.
Exactly. Well, and I think the part I find so curious is that like Republicans who like stand for liberty and freedom, all these, they say they stand for these things, but then when it comes time to actually like, when their actions, they don't really follow through. It's like, well, they choose power over the furthering of democracy. And so I think that's you and I, we both work in entertainment. And so it's like, I think that's a part of political theater that I don't like is when people try and use it as a way to like further their own message versus actually what's best for the people that they say they want to serve.
Genzo.
Congratulations to Mayor Jalen Smith of Earl, Arkansas. Proving once again that the younger generation is paying attention to politics. I keep trying to tell y'all. Mayor Smith is the youngest black mayor in America. At 18 years old, he is now running a whole small town. He plans to focus on transportation, public safety, and bringing a major grocery store to the city. Increasing residents' access to food sources is a cause Smith said he's especially passionate about. From high school to mayor is quite unique, and we applaud you. Good luck, my young brother. It takes a lot to step up to the plate to improve your community. So for that, you have our support here on the Gen Zone. Congratulations again.
Genzo.
Tucker Carlson, you probably have had the most claims and rumors about this whole Hunter Biden scandal. Yet, you conveniently leave out your part in it. Yes, soulmates. Tucker Carlson had his own emails in the infamous laptop, thanking Hunter for writing his son's recommendation letter for Georgetown. Oh, and also asking him to dinner. But why would you trust a drug addict's word for your child's college admission? And why would you want to have dinner with someone that people claim to be a con artist? All words you use on your show to describe Hunter. All the while, behind closed doors, or should I say behind closed laptops, that's your guy. Boy, you sure know how to put on a show. Stop the charades, drop the act, and show some appreciation for the hand that fed your son.
Genzo.
Time magazine has named President Zelensky and the Ukrainian people the Persons of the Year. This annual award recognizes the individual or group who has had the greatest impact on the world over the past year, and it's considered one of the most prestigious honors in journalism. Ukraine is definitely deserving of this honor. They have stood their ground and fought to defend their country and its citizens. Despite the war and the challenges that they faced throughout 2022, Ukraine has gained global support and showed a spirit of perseverance and triumph. All the while, President Zelensky has worked relentlessly to tackle corruption, improve the economy, and strengthen Ukraine's relationship with its allies. We support Time Magazine's decision, and we applaud each and every one of you in your fight. Hopefully they don't screw things like Elon did last year.
Genzo.
The border crisis. Okay, I've had just about enough of this. All you guys do is talk about the border and what the Biden administration is not doing about it. On this show, we've already talked about how ridiculous it is for you people to keep saying the same nonsense about the president fixing the border issues. It's been going on for years. How can Biden fix it himself? We all know that in reality, Congress has to pass legislation that the president then signs into law. But all of you politicians simply complain. Greg Abbott is still busing migrants all over the country. And Dan Crenshaw is actually saying that we should be at war with Mexican cartels. Why don't you do what you're supposed to be doing? Make legislation to fix the problem. Republicans now control the House.
You got the juice now, man.
I have an idea. Come up with policies that actually help the people coming here from other countries. Try to remember what we tell the whole world. Give us your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free. I know a lot of you old school politicians are so used to double talking and not fulfilling your promises that you don't realize that people actually believe those words are what America is all about. The land of the free? So for you to assume that everyone coming here from the southern border is a criminal, but not a refugee fleeing unlivable situations for a better life, makes you anti-American. We are not only open to groups of people that look like you. Now on to the left media pundits. Why is it that you guys have not been aggressive about covering the border at all this year? Why is it a love fest for Warnock winning in everything that President Biden does? Why are you guys not even addressing the new rumors surrounding Twitter, the FBI, and Hunter's laptop? The more information that Elon Musk releases, the more y'all should be addressing. You cannot take the moral high ground and act like this doesn't look incredibly suspicious. How is it possible that there is not any clarity or context provided from any of you? I have to tell you that as much as it annoys me, it also makes me smile because my generation is becoming more and more politically savvy every day. So when everyone is tuning in to us here at the Gen Zone, it's because we tell the truth and keep things 100. But I'll still shout out the fake news, the biases, and the hypocrisies with the hope that soon y'all will listen.
Genzo.
It's time for our QAnon conspiracies. Now usually we poke fun at Q and his followers. This way we address the ridiculous conspiracies instead of acting like they're too stupid to mention. We have learned that even the most insane conspiracy will gain followers and momentum. I also know that the slightest connection to a conspiracy will validate them in the minds of many. Then we get people like these. Which is why this week's conspiracy has to be addressed with no filter. One of the Q fans decided that it was time to choose violence when he wanted to one-up Kanye West in his foolish statement that slavery was a choice.
When you hear about slavery for 400 years, that sounds like a choice.
This Q disciple has been pushing a narrative that gained enough steam that it needed to be debunked ASAP. Q and his followers are now saying that there was no Atlantic slave trade. Now look, I hate slave movies and I really hate the fact that they're even still being made. I'm not entertained by the rape or the torture. However, I acknowledge that there are stories that need to be told, and apparently lessons to be learned. But these fools have still gone entirely too far. They're now saying that it was impossible for Europeans to navigate the Atlantic Ocean currents, especially having the slaves rowing the ships. The conspiracy is that we have been misled into believing that all Black people come from Africa, when in their reality, we were already here. Look, Q and all of your followers, I'm not even going to go any further. I hear you about the lack of actual pictures of these slave ships. The drawn pictures you state look fiction. I also don't mind you saying that my people were here and a part of my Native American brothers and sisters. But this is simply not true. Cut it out. You're not going to recruit us for your movement. The Atlantic slave trade was real, not fiction. Enough people suffered for it. Ugh. In other QAnon news, Q has gone international. The Reichberger movement and their leader, Prince Heinrich XIII, were planning to overthrow the German government. And they are followers of QAnon. And apparently they felt like they were going to make Germany great again. Wrong? These people hated the pandemic. They always had been there, but they were extremely empowered by the anti-COVID measures movement. They were radicalized because it allowed them to say they had the right to take action. And unfortunately, they all got busted at their homes. And they were nothing more than a bunch of plans that were not going to amount to anything. Looks like they got the whole Q thing down pat. A whole bunch of JFK Jr., a whole bunch of no sightings. A whole bunch of Guantanamo Bay, a whole bunch of nobody there. A lot of talk and secret emails, yet nothing. Thanks, Q. Looks like even in Germany, you're still Inkloff.
Genzo.
California Reparations Task Force, appointed by Governor Gavin Newsom, projects that Black residents could be eligible for up to $223,000 per person as an effort to address historical racism. Now, in order to receive this money, you must be a descendant of a slave and lived in the state of California between 1933 and 1977. So if you're born in 1978, you're SOL. That ain't gonna fly. In this 500-page report, it's understood that during that time period, there was home ownership discrimination, which created a tremendous wealth gap in Black communities. The state expects to spend $559 billion on reparations. That seems like a lot of money, but is it? I mean, I commend California and their efforts. I truly do. But is it ungrateful to say that that's just not enough? You mean to tell me that, one, discrimination only took place between the years of 1933 to 1977, 44 years? And secondly, that the only form of discrimination the Black community faced in those 44 years were in housing? Can we just be for real, just for a moment? You cannot put a timestamp on our injustices and discrimination because it's still happening to this very second. And to narrow it down to just one thing is blatantly disrespectful. Our skin color has affected our ability to get jobs, cars, loans, and basic human respect. I mean, I don't know how to really feel about it. I'm on the fence. I'm kinda offended. But on the other hand, it's almost like we have to start somewhere, right? Maybe this is why we haven't received any form of reparations, because the wrong is just too hard to right. I mean, we're talking about hundreds of years of harassment, murder, and lost opportunities. What amount of money could ever make up for that?
Genzo.
You know, the Republicans hold the House majority. I feel like instead of them, preparing to use this as a moment to bring ideas to the table and bring legislation to solve some of our problems, a lot of their focus and attention has been on impeachments and investigating Dr. Fauci and Joe Biden. Like, what do you have to say about some of their plans for that?
Well, and that's why I'm curious to see what committees are going to be forming now that the new Congress is coming together. And so, I mean, one thing that's happening right now is the Republicans really kept their cards close to their chest in terms of negotiating this deal for the new federal bill for the budget that's going to be passed, or probably that will have passed. I think by the time people see this interview, and so $1.7 trillion is in this new federal package, and a large part of it is the increase in military spending, and that was a big part of the Republicans negotiating. Sort of, it became a bipartisan agreement, but a large part of that was because certain earmarks or programs like military spending increased. So I think that's something that I wish the Democrats, would be at, fight. I mean, there's certain things that I'm really excited about that are also in the federal package for the budget, but I think that's one thing that I do commend Republicans on, is that they always, they're stern negotiators.
Right. They always know how to drive to the money, don't they?
Well, and I think that's the thing that's like our money reflects our values. Like where we spend our money, I think shows what we value and what we're prioritizing. And so I think this budget can, reflect what really the government is focused on. And yeah, unfortunately, the military is a big part of that.
Congress, they're so quick to spend our dollars on other things, and when it comes to, hey, we are still in debt over here, or hi, these people over here are homeless. They literally cannot afford housing. It's kind of like up for debate, as you said.
It's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about running, is because I think a big reason is like where members of Congress spend their time, and so much of their time is having to fundraise for the next election, and a lot of their money is coming from defense contractors. So, like for example, like the congressman that I was running against, he received thousands and hundreds, like tens of thousands of dollars from military contractors, and so those are the phone calls that he's receiving. And so, of course, when this budget is coming out, it's clear that you can see that reflected in where the money's going. And so, but like if we had young people vote for candidates like myself, I think that we could have a much larger dialogue about things that matter to us and what are going to impact our future versus the future. People in their 60s and 70s aren't thinking about the same things that we're thinking about, which I think is reflected in why the budget is the way it is.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us, Baxter. Do you have any advice that you would give to, people in our age group that aren't really into politics, but, we want to encourage them to start being informed and being awake when it comes to what's going on in our government and start using their right to vote? Do you have any words of encouragement you want to share with these people?
So much of, I mean, we all pay taxes. So I think knowing where your money's actually going and having a say in where it's being spent, I think is important. And the more like people watch the show and just are able to be more engaged, like especially even on the local level, because like, there's a reason why your water is the quality it is, or there's a reason why like, you're sitting in traffic for so long because like the federal public transportation budgets are the way they are. I just feel like all of these decisions can be influenced if we are engaged in. So I think just finding an issue that you really care about and learning more about it, I think can make a huge impact.
Absolutely, because I like to tell them politics affects every aspect of our daily lives. Whether we want to admit it or not, it's true. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And thank you for joining us tonight.
Genzo.
Okay, everyone, it's Tuesday and inflation's going up. Everyone's cutting back, and so are we. Yep, that's right. Our Gen Zone Top 10 is now our Top 5. This week's Top 5, a positive swing, Gen Z New Year resolutions. 5, to go 5 days without vaping. Unlikely, but it's Worth a shot. 4, actually enjoy a party and not just record myself attending the party. But then how are they gonna know that I was actually at... 3, to find a job that pays 6 figures for me to do absolutely nothing. Oh, that's the life. 2, to go viral on TikTok. Maybe that could be my job. And the #1 New Year resolution for Generation Z is to just do it. Stop procrastinating. Actually do the things that we said we were gonna do last year. So this holiday, stay up, because we're all going through it. And we could all use a little extra love. Be good to people. Stay awake and stay aware. I'm Janae, and you've been in the Gen Zone.